Hey everybody, it's Nikki. So after rewatching Skeleton Crew last night, I decided that I wanted to sort of lay out my predictions and my thoughts for the show so far, because I've got to be honest, I am enjoying it a lot and I was kind of surprised that I was. To tell you the truth, I really thought Skeleton Crew was gonna be more of a kid's show. That was just kind of the vibe that I was getting from some of the advertisements that I was seeing. Not to mention the cast is, it's a bunch of kids. And that's not to say that I wouldn't necessarily enjoy it, because I did really like watching Young Jedi Adventures. I thought that was just a super cute show to have on in the background. So I'm not one to really look at spoilers for a show, because I think that it really takes away from the enjoyment factor when you're expecting a certain trajectory for the story. Like if you already know that one of the characters is gonna turn from the very beginning, then you're not fully invested. You can't really suspend your reality to get into the story. I'm not gonna lie, like a lot of you, I was kind of expecting that wave of Star Wars hate to kind of envelope the show, but so far I feel like most people are kind of on board with like this whole pirate space Goonies vibe that they have going. So now the kids in this show, okay, we have Wim, KB, Fern, and Neil. KB, oh my gosh, instant favorite. I love this girl. She kind of reminds me of Tech from Bad Batch, mixed with like one of those Star Trek people. What is Spock? She sort of got like the deadpan dialogue delivery of a Vulcan. Wim was a hard one for me to get with for a little bit. I was kind of on again, off again whether or not I liked this character, until I realized that he really reminds me of Ezra Bridger. If you've seen Rebels, if you started from the very beginning, you know how hard it was to kind of not want to smack this kid a little bit. He was just like relentlessly getting into trouble, causing issues. It's just that he's quite naive. But again, they're young, they're kids. When we're on Aden in the beginning of episode 1, and you see Wim and Neil get into that lightsaber fight, that was so real. That was just so childhood. I don't think there's any person who didn't relate to what those kids were feeling and like the dramatic effect of like, oh my guts are spilling. So when the Skeleton Crew kids are caught at that pirate's landing port, they're thrown into the brig. One of the pirates in that circle is the same one from The Mandalorian, by the way, which I thought was so incredibly cool. But once the kids are locked up in that jail, you can hear the whistle from the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland. And it's the prisoners whistling at the dog to try and get him to bring him the key. My other thing with these kids, okay, I think this is a very Rebels style show. What I'd really like to see out of this story is that the kids cannot actually return to Aden. I actually don't think that they will. There might even be like a time jump where maybe they're like a few years older. I can definitely see that, but I hope they don't recast them, because I've decided I want to stick with this group. I think these actors are gonna evolve really well with the story. They will either find a way to return and decide not to because they want to protect the lost treasure, whatever that may be, or it's just gonna be completely impossible and they're literally never gonna be able to find their way back. Who knows? It's kind of too early to tell. I don't think this show is gonna have a lot of seasons. I think it's gonna be between 1 and 3. The very end of the show is gonna be them blasting off into hyperspace on some sort of mission that we will not get to see, similar to how Ezra Bridger did in Rebels. And then we will see these kids as young adults in another show, maybe a few years later, maybe making cameos similar to the Rebels crew, how they are now. Just even though I see this as like a Goonies, pirates, treasure hunting storyline as a whole, I think that's limited to this show, in a way at least. And it's really gonna be following that Rebels trajectory, and especially Ezra's story to saving Lothal, but then not really ending up with the capabilities on his own or even with that group to save his home planet, to stop the Empire, and so then going off on his mission with Thrawn. I definitely see this being the same sort of scenario, which makes me super excited because I love Rebels. It's my favorite Star Wars show. I mean, that's kind of tough to say with Clone Wars. I go back and forth a lot, but I see a lot of similarities. My prediction, Skeleton Crew is the new Rebels show. I definitely want to know your thoughts. I know this is not the kind of content I usually post on this channel, but I'm super excited for the next episode of Skeleton Crew to drop tonight. Whether or not it meets expectations or is as good as like the first two, I'm not gonna get discouraged because I really want to see where the story as a whole, where season 1 ends, and then kind of keep talking about it as we go along. Can't wait to see where it goes. Love the cast, love the writing. Really excited about the potential for this story, not just for now, but in the long-term game for Star Wars. Let me know what you think about this show if you have any thoughts or predictions. Do you also see this as like an Ezra Bridger sort of story? On that note, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button on your way out, and I will see you next time.